I thought about making a movie, Astoria, live from Astoria, Oregon. What about the rich? About checking in on city council last night, and the mayor was going on about how we keep emphasizing low income housing, and we need to emphasize higher tiers of incomes. We had quite a proposal. He felt that for the 40 low income affordable housing in the Merwin next door to City Hall, there should have been 100 and what was it, 240 units of non-affordable housing. It was great, and everybody just sat there very politely. And it was quite at the very end of the meeting, the fire chief said top ramen, and I think he was cracking a joke that nobody else got but me, and I barely heard it. And I looked up and was like, top ramen for dinner. Um, and the police chief's mysterious Mona Lisa smile was like bugging the heck out of me for more than 24 hours, and I'm trying to understand what it means. And after looking up Google Scholar and whatever I could find for 165.540 under federal cases, I just read a lot of a really hilarious case from some sheriff's deputies that recorded a Catholic priest doing a confession with a man accused of 22 counts of murder or something, burglary, murder. Um, so it was quite the wiretap case, and Lane County, Eugene. So then the one I don't know why the Washington case is citing Oregon. I didn't find the exact section, but it was just like a more kind of prosaic early 2000s. Guy is recording some skateboarding. Cop drives up, gets all entangled with why you got a camera. You're getting arrested. So things about like probable cause and why are you being arrested, and yeah, very very. I do see why. When and I was just thinking that like, okay, I heard a rumor. I'm not gonna say my source. The guy who let's see, I don't have any evidence to back it up, but one of the two people involved in the squatter situation in the Simonson case that the DA eventually dropped, Andrew Bew, supposedly killed in the forest of Clatsop County. Yeah, what about the rich? Back to the real subject. Yeah, and I don't, and maybe some sheriff's department involved is what I heard. No, no, no. Or the girlfriend. Or I'm thinking maybe he staged his own death. I mean, who wouldn't stage their own death? That's such a cinematic thing to do. But what else? Well, the reason why I thought I should make a video is sometimes I have so many little funny thoughts that are like floating around my mind that I can't really piece them all into a funny story or a thing to write. But I kind of want to, and I'm grasping at little funny thoughts that are amusing me. For instance, today my luck was to sort of not run into Kirk Wintermute, but see him from a decent distance as he was running to his SUV to drive away for lunch, and I sense a nervousness back in his aura. I think he briefly got his groove back, as my blog states, and then he got like a more nervous, because he's had this nervousness around me for quite some time, which I noticed outside deals only one day, at the Scandinavian Park one day, and then this time at the courthouse, he seemed to be like all kind of like, we got a case on you. And oh yeah, Scott Lee's been talking to a lawyer who thinks they have a good case, and I'm all like, who, what, Kirk? Or Josh. Which Jack was like, if I have to share you with any other man, I should share you with someone nice like Josh. And I'm like, no, Josh and I, not my type. No, thank you. No offense, Josh. But like, you have a pre-existing bar complaint, okay? So, that's not how you work it off. Anyway, Jack. I remind Jack of his sister. Never mind Jack. But let's see. So today, Kurt. Okay, so like 4 days ago or like 6 days ago or something, I lean over to give this person that I frequently kiss on the cheek a kiss on the cheek, and Kurt is coming to his SUV to go to lunch or come back from lunch or something. And he looks all winsomely like, well, I didn't get a kiss at lunch. Or like, gosh, I have a job and a car, but that guy has a kiss. Just looked like painfully winsome and trying to contain himself. And like, but I thought they were all bad and I demonized them. And there they are, just enjoying a kiss. Just like ever so slight of a grandma type of a kiss. And so that was kind of funny, and I think that was the day before court. So then today he comes back, and then I see him again when he's coming at the end of his lunch, and I'm all just like smiling and talking to someone, and I wore my hair down, which is kind of, I never do that. And like, I just felt him like get lost into the like, well, maybe she isn't a bad person. Well, why is she smiling? And how can she be happy? Hair. I don't know. Maybe that's not his thought process. He can speak for himself. He has the right to remain silent. But anyway, and then the day before that, I think I saw Judge Peterson. I thought he was having a day off or a week off or something, but I think I know which car he has, the O. But like, he's walking in front of the post office, and I was like, better than jaywalking, because all these judges are like jaywalking and prosecutors jaywalking to the Chinese restaurant or something. And I'm like, I haven't even told the internet. I talked to the Veritas legal team. OMG. He wants to help. And then it's like, the off ramp is going this way. But I still haven't been able to like link up with the Rainico chick. And I'm thinking like, Lane Borg, I like you, dude, but you probably know I'm just another crazy activist, and if you tell me something, it might turn up in a blog somewhere, or I can't keep my lid on it. So, for one thing, Laneberg is gonna win. For another thing, the little prosecuting deputy, who's adorable, I love him, Alex Thomas, Doubting Thomas, is like pretty much just telling me it's a handover, like pretty much like, we can't wait to get out of this case. Like, we've got a motion to be. And I'm like, dude, you guys could have dropped this in July. Just like, don't file more charges or like another charge. Like, just get out. But so I was last night. Okay, so this like legal research marathon I've been on. I'm researching Bar Klein. Who did I speak to? Oh my gosh, Stephen Klein. I thought he was like 60 or something. He was so elegant and respectful and well spoken, and like the level of understated that I would say like my dad or someone like my dad or like Steve Sadie and Stephen Wax in Federal Defense in Portland, like that type of just like whoa. And so I'm all like really excited he's willing to speak to me on like no timing, just because I like printed out the original Veritas complaint to basically give as a courtesy. Like, here's another $11 I'm wasting on your case. Here, you go read the original filing. You need a juicy read with all your other 100 cases. So I'm sitting there, like, he's called me back, and I can't believe it. So I'm just sitting there talking to him, and then kind of wrapping it up, and I'm going into the church, and then I see like the cool lawyer, and I've just gotten my like the cool judge, but I'm like, I've got my recusal of Wintermute and McIntosh, which Laneberg had already told me that Wintermute was self-recusing, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna write it up anyway because I'm deeply concerned about this conflict of interest he's running. Like, Lifeboat is not above the law. Lifeboat is not a part of the judiciary, and all these lifeboat sex offenders, drug dealers do not have the power of the court. And so my current refrain now is that Kirk Wintermute needs to resign the board of Lifeboat. While they're engaged in like tons of crooked criminal activity, this has just gone too far to corrupt the judiciary. So Bo Peterson has signed Mac. And for me, it was very personal and painful to have Macintosh resign because I do respect her career. She has been fair occasionally, and I don't like the fact that whatever turn she's in right now, she expressed so much hostility to me for bringing forward a concern about the lifeboat guy who puts his hand around my throat. He's quite bigger than me, and coercive, creepy, rapey, as they say. So, glad we got that out of the way. And I kind of feel loath about what a position it puts the younger judge in. Maybe he's tough enough to handle it, but I don't think that's a nice position to have to be in, to be just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how they approach it. How do they maintain any clinical indifference? Maybe that's what they do. They're just like, sure, whatever, sure, you want this recusal? So, for me, probably nothing I do in that case actually even matters because Landborg is going to win and get Emily's case slam dunk. But so then I immediately email Lane. So I'm getting off the phone and I'm just like, I can't even believe I'm on the phone with a lawyer in DC who fought this huge case, and he's kind of bragging about how it's like the most friendly decision they've had. So then that night I'm like later going back and like researching history of cases. One is Democracy Partners. And then what the one in Massachusetts is most fascinating because the Massachusetts wiretap law is to me abhorrent so far, nauseating. But as like an internet freedom loving kind of activist, like long term streamer blogger type person. But I'm so glad somebody's doing the work. And so when I looked at his picture, I was like, what? You still have good teeth and good skin? Like, what the heck? You are a youngster. So from his dates of his graduation, I can estimate he might be like around 36 or something. And I'm just like, oh. And he went to Ave Maria School of Law in Florida, which is a Catholic law school. And I'm like, leave it to the damn Catholics to be blazing a trail and like lighting the way of the future against essentially government corruption and secrecy, crony network stuff. So his little guy, whatever, colleague Barr, argued the little snippet of Veritas, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that I watched on YouTube. So I don't know, Stephen, I don't know who does what specifically in their case material, but it was neat to see the evolution of the Massachusetts case down to this more recent case. And once it was like filed, it just became like as the events of the Portland protests and all that was going on then in that sad year in 2020, it became so much more like it was just so timely. So I email Lane and I'm like, dude, like I just to start because that was actually one of my first goals. Immediately I was like emailing whatever like contact form on their website or some way that would not get routed to them. So it was neat is it's customary for the lawyers to like put their phone number so you can reach them on a bar filing of something and like a court filing. So I just called and it's a 202 and then knowing East Coast time zone and stuff, I don't know how I got so lucky, but he's like I explained the whole thing where Lane gets to argue for this allegedly similar. I don't think these cases are that similar. I think it's just more like the DA is similarly misguided in some ways. I don't. Anyway, that's like a separate point. But I would argue for cases to be severed. But no, I mean it's almost kind of like I get the feeling they just don't want to deal with me. So they want Emily's case to sort of like clear the whatever pinball machine of justice they've got going. So Lane being so bulldogish and respected and wise, he doesn't. And it's kind of an unusual situation for him to have recused for conflict of interest and now be arguing the case that is like a pivotal towards my little fit case being dropped. I was gonna try to explain this all to City Council. Can you imagine? Anybody would be confused. It's all very absurd. Oh, and the Veritas lawyer thinks exactly as I do, that I absolutely had one party consent rights. This did work, and under 165.540, this like additional charging the silly class district attorney wanted to put on me, and I was like, okay, cool, because the second she puts it on speaker, that is consent. And I'm now a party with one party recording rights. Obviously, it was. I gave her consent. I even have a written consent form, which I have not put that in a filing, but theoretically, if we went to some like long-winded 6-week show trial or whatever the heck they're going for, I would want to like subpoena my release of information so I could talk to you and whatever. It's like so much bureaucracy. But anyway, oh yeah, what about the rich? So I think why I think this is funny is supposedly the mayor is like a property developer, high rent landlord, property speculator, whatever. So he wants more townhomes and cottages. And clearly, the more Portland goes to the dogs, the more rich people want to move here. They already are. They're all at the new co-op, which is like now a mega center of expensive hippie food. And so like our little co-op was tiny beforehand. And where all these rich yuppies are coming from, I don't know, but I assume Portland and Seattle. So we'll try to build you some housing. And at this point, you get the feeling that the mayor is saying, enough with, he was just like, enough with this low income talk. And I was like, oh wow, we're really going there. To this point where it's like, we have no shelter, we have no state funded homeless or like city funded homeless programs. We have the county trying to funnel money from the feds into this chaotic, mismanaged facility. The city is at least being like no liability, which is exactly what I told them in an email like 9 months ago. The liability risks are immense. Be very careful. There's a lot of shady stuff going on. And so like their financial backing out. NAMI has backed out, National Alliance on Mental Illness. Clubhouse International has backed out. So that's like 3 huge things. And so then I have to get prosecuted, but who and what's responsible for all? It's like, is it like an economic hitman? But where is it all leading to? Still, like, we're not level to the point of there being an even playing field. And so am I the embedded socialist in the what about the rich city council meeting? And I think at this point, like, police chief doesn't know whether or not to smile at me or not smile at me. And I can't bear to look at him because he's so bashful and I think this town is messing him up, and I barely even noticed Blair hitting his guard. And I didn't speak, which was such a relief because they really didn't want to hear it. And I think it might just be better to go in hauling the carcass of victory and just be like, okay, high five. But it's also one of those, why even talk about it if it's going to be this stupid kind of atmospheres. But my goal is the county. Move to the county. They're still dribbing and drabbing the aid. They still, I haven't gained their temper right now. I don't quite know where they stand on any issues whatsoever, or propaganda or like groupthink or self-deceptions. So I got the harbor chick is like doesn't even want to prosecute, like have any like no contact order nonsense with like why does the district attorney want to open up the nonprofit to a civil rights violation lawsuit by trying to enforce some no contact deprivation of equal treatment under the Violence Against Women Act because he hates women, or he's trying to destroy the harbor, or he's just that out of it. So she's like, nobody ever asked me about this. Like, I'm kind of like, it's almost like the boys playing with, I mean, like, yeah, the harbor's supposed to be gender neutral now and all that, but like, it's still, you know, fundamentally the women's center. So it's like the boys are like, how can we like scream at the women in the women's center that prosecute the women for saying they don't want to be screamed at? Then we're gonna say the women are not allowed to go to the women's center. And then, yeah, ooh, it's like Caveman Part 3. It's embarrassing. And then I was just like imagining, what if like Ron Brown just wanted me to come over and have lunch or something? What if he just missed me? I think he must miss me. I think he has like, kind of reminds me of my dad. He's like the master of the painful Scorpio stare down that makes you feel kind of weird. And you're like, is everything okay? And me taking after my mother, the registered nurse, I'm like Nurse Mary. So I'm like, yes, Rod, would you like some mashed peas? How's it going at the senior center known as the Clatsop County Courthouse? Like, lonely up here? Long time during COVID? Backlogs getting to you? Non-unanimous verdict retries getting to you? Like, I mean, they have a hard slog. I don't see why they need to make their caseload any harder, other than maybe fluff cases like Little Witch Trial against Mary is like, kind of like, makes them feel a bit sporty. But I mean, oh yeah, and my actual, you know, deep psychological interpretation is they need me to win so they can feel like, wow, the archetype of the winner. So they need me to go like in as the winner and just be like, ba-dum boom, pro se to the max, and like, then they can be like, bravo, bravo, and I just like don't really want to be that person. I mean, I'm growing into the role. And of course, I can't stop obsessing, and Judge Peterson was busting out laughing, and then he tried to contain his laughter and look away, lest he be interpreted as non-professional, or perhaps even busted by the chief feminist du jour for like anything that could be moderately interpreted as harassment. I know exactly what he's laughing about is the fact that I've caught the prosecutor submitting Aaron Carlson's falsified evidence or whatever, and I'm deeply troubled by my typo. It's Oregon Rules of Professional Conduct. Oregon Rules, but there's so many of these different things. So there's the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, there's CP and PC, and like all this like alphabet soup in the law studies. So it was like, oh, those typos really were getting to me because I like did the typo wrong one way and then wrong the other way down there, but I never got the typo right. But I got the principle right, which is you shouldn't be submitting falsified evidence. And setting this little prosecutor who doesn't even know what's going on up for a phone. And he's just like, can I get out of this case really quick? And the whole like, got $100? I'm like, yeah, I even have friends with $100, so if that's what you're looking for, I'm sure it took you more than $100 worth of manpower to put this little pony show together, as I called it, to the pretty blonde braided sheriff's deputy. I think it's Osborne, who I am just terribly smitten with, and if only I could just go commit some. And the prosecutor doesn't even want to give me any jail time, and how am I going to say hi to all my homies if I didn't commit a crime? Oh, okay, so here it is. It's not motion to dismiss, it's summary motion to dismiss. Or basically you want to do kind of a pre-trial evidentiary hearing to see if the facts even support the charge. And this is what I'm getting from the Columbia Law Review. I just read this massive, long document on the plea bargains, which I just want to call coerced confessions, just so we don't trick ourselves that we even have a respectable justice system in America. What I was saying to the kids on the bus, I was like, okay, well, the stats, I heard 94%, but now I'm seeing it's 87 and 70 and 60 in like all these different states. But whatever the percentages of plea bargains that resolve cases, if everyone just stopped, critical mass, everyone stopped doing plea bargains, force everything to go to a trial, the entire justice system would collapse. Because they do not have the infrastructure to support a fair right to a trial. So the whole system is a bluff. And it bothers me deeply, as deeply unethical. And it's so simple, it's genius to put the people power together. But I never had anyone explain it. I mean, the person who kind of showed me the fictitiousness of the police system was Benny Pickering down in Portland. But so I feel like the mayor likes me. I don't know why. Maybe just because like I can raise hell when I need to, or I think part of the thing about letting the leaders be leaders is you have to like sit back and let them be leaders. Don't show up and do it for them. So I really do like these boring meetings. And once I finally talked myself down, I was like, okay, I don't have to think of a speech. I can just go and listen. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I showed up late and brought my knitting. And then some pack of burly men sat too close to me, and I didn't know if I should move or not, or if that would look ruder, and then I would have to get closer to the police chief. And then, yeah, Astoria. Sort of, I used to call it Soviet Astoria. So Soviet Astoria is like, what about the rich? I guess because of the strong underpinnings of socialism, which I see being stamped out vigorously by the emergent trends in Airbnb and vacation rentals and high rents and yuppie culture and upscale breweries and vacationing culture. So I do see this stamping out of whatever was there. I mean, even the militant, commodified, commercial, capitalistic version of homeless industrial complex is a function of what about the rich. And the deep humanitarian vision. It's just a dream sometimes. I couldn't really help anybody today, and then I'm sucked into all this like legal research. What good am I? I'd almost rather just be like delivering food to someone or doing something nice for someone. I hope to run into different friends. I kind of have a lot of loose threads to catch up with. But in the meantime, the discrimination is ongoing. There's a change in discrimination sign. There's a sign saying no discrimination, no smoking, no vaping, no discrimination. And I'm just like, but you're the one doing it. So why are you putting the sign on the... It's sort of like for appearances, but maybe it's also because I reported the use of the N-word, the use of neo-Nazi slogans and Sieg Heils and things, and like the types of things that I reported are deeply offensive. So maybe if you put no discrimination, and maybe you can still discriminate against the person who pointed out the discrimination, but since you have no discrimination on it, it'll curtail some of the discrimination, and the discrimination against me will still be sanctioned because you're busy engaged in a witch hunt, smear tactic, malicious prosecution. And so I also did like a sort of like a Okay, I found out this. Well, the LG has a better voice speech to text thing, so I did like a trial run of like an essay, but it was more written from like a WrestleMania type perspective of like the most inflammatory tabloid language come out, which is kind of the tone in which I wrote my press release that somehow magically got a reporter in the courtroom, the youngest reporter, and I was just kind of trying it because I know that that voice is there, that confident, bombastic, sarcastic persona, but kind of putting on the facade of the polite, genteel courtroom demeanor is manufactured. And the rabbi calling me right before court, how freaking cool was that? I literally called like 3 synagogues before court. He prayed with me for speaking truth to power. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm speaking power to truth. Um, yeah, oh, and here's another observation. Is all the working on scene, I could hear the tone modulation in the over mic'd audio in the they call it for the record. They make you pay $10 to buy this recording of the file. I really do like this judge though, Ted Grove, and I think this case was just making him a wee bit uncomfortable. And I think he could already sense that it was slowly being diminished, but he didn't want to get too involved in all the creepy things about basically the things I told Glenn. I was like, I got a bunch into the record, and he's like, this is not about getting stuff into the record. You can't help yourself. And I was like, I don't like making you mad, but we always clash because you're a Capricorn, and he wanted me to invoke my right to remain silent and right to counsel, and I'm like, we can do that later. But I am having this like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to like late, conceivably Lane loses, or say Lane wins a portion of the dismissal. I don't know the terms of his case. Say for some reason my motion to dismiss does linger on. I've either got to argue it or demand counsel. So that is a little agonizing, but the part of my mind that's just telling me 90% chance it's all gonna be over and out before then. In the meantime, what has this been like? Summer reading camp or something, where I've never been more motivated. Well, I have been quite motivated actually. And then what amount of damage done, and I guess maybe why the police chief would be acting so nervous around me is it's probably a civil rights lawsuit. I mean, the pawn shop guy said I should sue the hell out of him. And I said, yeah, it just seems like somebody wants to make me a millionaire and get me a big mansion and tell me to go away. But that, what about the rich? I mean, that would be a silly way to give me and the what we just call him the millionaire, but we sort of know his name. But he was at the Heritage Square infill plaza discussion group, and I sort of talked to him long enough for him to possibly be like, whoa, you know who I am, and you have a crush on me ever so slightly. And I was like, because I think he's getting quite old enough to be like, can I still pick up the ladies? Lindsay was talking to him, and then I was like, ran over and like, Brenda, come here. We sort of sieged him. But we were griping about the fentanyl and stuff, the Blue Devil. No, this isn't live, so it's easier to be spontaneous when it's not live. And live is just really intimidating. Okay, I think I finally taught myself to sleepiness.